Story time. So a few years ago, I was playing Dungeons & Dragons with a few friends of mine, and we were, I think, between the levels of 8 and 10, and we were wrapped up in a side quest. This side quest, we found ourselves battling a Balor demon in some kind of mirror or pocket dimension. So the combat started, we rolled initiative, we took our turns, and every turn our attacks and our spells, chipped away at the Balor's health little by little. Well, this fight went on for over an hour. By the time we finally got the Balor to 0 hit points and defeated this monster, I was pretty much fed up with the D&D 5e combat system. It took too long and didn't really feel like a real fight with a monstrous demon. So afterwards, I set out on a bit of my own quest to find a better way to run combat in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I read a bunch of articles, watched a bunch of videos, and one of the biggest ideas I came away with was stop rolling for initiative. Now, one of the articles I read suggested that combat ought to be more fluid and should be a regular part of the game, just like any other interaction players would have when they're playing. So combat situations should be treated like any other encounter or role-playing moment. Take this scenario, for example. The players have been tasked with exploring the city sewers and rooting out a warren of were-rats that has taken up residence beneath the city. As they're exploring, they turn a corner and come across some were-rat scouts. Both sides have seen each other, and both sides want to fight to resolve this conflict, and instead of saying roll for initiative, the Dungeon Master says something like this. As you come around a corner, you spot 3 of the were-rats. They also see you, and 2 of them draw weapons, while one of them shifts to his hybrid form. They seem to be guarding something, so they don't charge at you right away. I want to shoot the hybrid with my longbow. Okay, roll to hit. 17. You hit, roll for damage. 11 damage. Okay, as the rats are standing up to fight you, you immediately raise your bow and loose an arrow. The arrow thunks into the side of the hybrid, who screams in agonizing rage. He lunges at you and reaches your position in a single bound. It swipes at you with its claws and snaps at you with its teeth. It's bite connected, and you can take 7 piercing damage. I cast Moonbeam where the hybrid is standing. Okay, great. Remind me what that does again? Combat has now taken on a more narrative and fluid aspect, being fully integrated into the story. It's seamless and requires the players to think more on their feet. But the idea is that if a player speaks up and wants to attack, let them attack first, and then maybe jump to a monster and then go back to another player, or, whatever it is you want to do that feels the most natural and fluid based on the goals of all the characters involved. It's just a matter of resolving one action and then moving on to the next. Most importantly, this method doesn't interrupt the game. Honestly, rolling for initiative has always felt to me like pausing a role-playing game and starting a mini-game of whack-a-mole. Eliminating initiative solves that problem and communicates to the players that they can still do what they want when they want, even though there's a fight going on. This makes combat feel more like combat in Skyrim than in Final Fantasy, for example. And there are situations where initiative works just fine. For example, the players are fighting a group of goblins or bandits. They have relatively the same numbers and relatively the same size creatures they're fighting. But when it comes to bigger, badder monsters, or just bigger groups of monsters, the traditional initiative rules just kind of don't work out. Think of combat, the action of swinging a weapon to unalive or seriously injure another creature, as a form of conflict resolution, and is one of many ways to resolve a conflict, and combat should not exist for its own sake. Rolling initiative when fighting a monster like an adult dragon or some kind of colossal giant kind of just feels like you're doing a cheesy boss fight in Raid Shadow Legends, where your team all gets up in a circle on one end of the field and the boss is on the other side of the field, and on their turn your rogue just runs up to the monster real quick and pokes it in the ankle with his rapier, and that's supposed to do real damage. It's always felt kind of silly to me. No, the standard combat and counter rules don't really apply here. I would perhaps take inspiration from games like Shadow of the Colossus and make the fight feel really epic.